Now, leaders of U.S. spy agencies say that Russian President Vladimir Putin may intensify the assault on Ukraine despite military setbacks and economic hardships. They warn that there are ugly few weeks ahead. Let's listen in.
Russia's failure to rapidly seize Kyiv and overwhelm Ukrainian forces has deprived Moscow of the quick military victory that it probably had originally expected would prevent the United States and NATO from being able to provide meaningful military aid to Ukraine. Moreover, we assess Moscow underestimated the strength of Ukraine's resistance and the degree of internal military challenges we are observing, which include an ill-constructed plan, morale issues, and considerable logistical issues.
And where that leads, I think, is for an ugly next few weeks in which he doubles down, as I said before, with scant regard for civilian casualties, in which urban fighting can get even uglier. Because the one thing I'm absolutely convinced of, and I think our analysts across the intelligence community are absolutely convinced of, is the Ukrainians are going to continue to resist fiercely and effectively.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine has been going on for 14 days. The U.S. intelligence agency says 2,000 to 4,000 Russian troops have died during this invasion. Russia has faced a number of hard-hitting sanctions during this period, which has isolated the country like never before. U.S. intel also says that Russia has started to feel the effects of the sanctions. They've also warned of an elevated nuclear threat. Pentagon's Defense Intelligence Agency also pointed out that under Putin's presidency, Russia has been working overtime to modernize its weaponry, particularly smaller-yield nuclear weapons. Last month, Putin had put Russia's nuclear forces on high alert, a move that alarmed the West. William Burns also pointed out that Putin's circle is getting narrower. A top U.S. diplomat has urged Congress to label Putin as obsessed, paranoid leader who has created a bed of lies and tested the foundations of international law. Now let's start with news just coming in. An air alert has been declared today morning in and around Kiev. Residents have been urged to get to bomb shelters as quickly as possible. Russian forces have seen their advances stopped in certain areas, including the capital Kiev, by fiercer resistance than expected from the Ukrainians. Nearly 2 weeks into the invasion, Russian troops have advanced deep along Ukraine's coastline. The city of Mariupol, which sits on the Azov Sea, has been surrounded by Russian soldiers for days, and a humanitarian crisis is now unfolding in the city. Now, for days, as Moscow's forces have laid siege to Ukrainian cities, attempts to create corridors to safely evacuate civilians have not been very successful amid the continuing fighting here. Now, for more on this, our correspondent Anas Malik is joining us live. Let's go across to him. Anas, thank you for joining us. What can you tell us about the situation on ground currently in the capital?
Well, today there's a relative calm. We see more and more cars out on the road. The traffic signals are functioning. But with that, we're seeing more and more military deployments as well on the road. It's roughly 8:30 a.m. here in Kiev, in the capital of Ukraine. Last night, it did not snow much, but despite of that grimness, that tension remains in the air. Just a while back, about an hour and a half back, we saw that air raid alert coming in from the city administration that had advised to the citizens to take to the bomb shelters and stay safe until they issue further instructions. So that goes on to explain the magnitude of the situation. Now, as I talk to you, there's a lot of grimness and tensions in the air. A lot of people have been migrating. The railway station is currently full, and people only who have chosen to stay back are those who are either volunteers or who are here in the city of Kiev by choice. Hey?
All right, and also as per reports, Russian forces have seen their advances stopped in certain areas, including Kiev. What can you tell us about the troop advancement?
Well, the troop advancements had been ongoing in precisely in the outskirts of Kiev from the north, that is towards the Irpin area, and that's where we had, from where we were reporting yesterday as well. There was a humanitarian corridor that was allowed. In fact, today there are renewed calls for a humanitarian corridor as well that has been allowed or presumably allowed by the Russian side. It is yet to see that will it be abided by or not, because yesterday we saw some shelling as well, as and when during that the time period of the ceasefire. Yesterday when I was at Irpin, the Russian convoy was about 40 miles long, about 64 kilometers, and Irpin is just about 27 kilometers from the city of Kiev towards the north. So that goes on to say about their advancements yesterday. The bridge that connects Bukhar district of Irpin to the rest of the city, that was also blown up by the Ukrainian forces in order to thwart the advancement of the Russian forces. And in fact, they had built a detour along that bridge. We were reporting from there yesterday. So with regards to the advancement, there are increased speculation that there might just be the advancement might just be towards Irpin.
Right, absolutely. In fact, I was just going to ask you about the humanitarian corridors. Now, 5,000 civilians from the northeastern city of Sumy, I believe, have been evacuated. There is also another ceasefire in place today. What can you tell us about the progress on that front and the Zelensky government's response to it?
Well, the Zelensky government response has been a mixed response by and large. They say that they take it with a pinch of salt because they are not very hopeful with regards to the ceasefire, given that the shelling has been continuing intermittently. Now, on to the humanitarian crisis. More than 2 million refugees have fled the country. The country, that's almost 50% of the population. About the population over here in Ukraine is estimated at about 44.13 million as per the census that was done in 2020. And as per UN estimates, more than 2 million people have left. So that actually goes on to show that about a greater deal of the population has actually left the country, and this will further escalate the crisis. Lots and lots of women and children are those among those who are allowed to go. Then we're seeing the elderly as well, those who are among them. So the humanitarian crisis is existent. A lot of people are looking at these humanitarian corridors as a window of opportunity to flee to safety.
Right, absolutely. Anas, thank you so much for bringing us all the updates on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.